Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome in from truly across the continent and beyond for another super exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. For most of you, this is your first time ever joining us, and so if it is your first show with us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world, and everything we do goes to our YouTube channel forever. So if you want to check out this program in like 3 weeks or 3 years or share with your family and friends, you can head there and do just that alongside like 4,000 other shows featuring the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. Now, before we dive in with our topic du jour, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz to test your understanding and have some fun, see who's paying attention, you can pull up that game pin on a separate tab, and we'll be doing that in about 25 minutes. Now, without further ado, the reason that there's so many of you here, over 1,000 of you here from, I think, 20 US states, 4 Canadian provinces, and like 5 or 6 other countries around the world, is that we are back live at our amazing partnership with the team at the WWF. The World Wildlife Fund is the most recognized organization working to protect wildlife on this planet of any in the world. And so last year, we did an epic 8-part series with them. I really encourage you to check that out here. All the past shows are there. They're all on our YouTube channel. And we are kicking it off in style today with Madalen Howard, who's going to share a little bit about life through her lens, her work to understand and showcase the natural world, in particular, some really special freshwater creatures. So without further ado, you're not here for me. I'm going to zip it. Madalen, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share all there is to share. So I'll go ahead and jump in, get started.
Let's do it.
All right, so today I'm going to be sharing the story of how I became a communicator for the freshwater team at the World Wildlife Fund, from the Rocky Mountain streams that I work in today, starting in the reefs of the Florida Keys. I'm going to be showing you how I capture moments in nature on camera and how you can capture those moments as well. You might not believe it based off of this picture that you're seeing right now, but you actually don't need a big fancy camera or expensive gear to get started filming in nature. What you really need is curiosity, creativity, and courage to get outside and actually get started. So the key is really to start small, find the stories that are exciting to you, and ask for help when you need it. So for my journey, it actually started a long time ago. This is a photo that I've cherished for my entire life. It was taken back in the 1980s, and you're actually looking at my mom getting ready with her scuba gear, getting ready to explore a coral reef for her research when she was in college. And when I was young, I would listen to the stories that my mom told me of her time researching and scuba diving on these reefs and actually living in an underwater habitat. I would ask for all the details about what it felt like to breathe underwater, and I would just soak in every little moment of experimenting and living on a coral reef. I just thought it was the absolute coolest thing in the entire world. And those stories that my mom would tell me of her experience mixed with my childhood of playing outdoors by turning over rocks and looking for roly-polies in my backyard and putting sticks into jars to make little habitats for fireflies and waking up every morning listening to birds chirping outside of my window. All of those experiences sort of guided me and started me on my journey and my pursuit to a career in environmental conservation. And even though I had all of that experience going for me, my mom had told me about coral reefs and environmental conservation, it wasn't until I was in my 3rd year of college that I actually realized that I didn't need to be traveling to far off distant places all over the world in order to experience nature, in order to see a coral reef. I learned that Florida, the land that I knew of having spring break and gators, was actually home to one of the largest coral reefs in the world. So my very first trip to Florida's coral reef actually happened the exact same year that I learned that it even existed, which was 2015. So I was working as a camp counselor, and I was leading some outdoor adventures all around the state of Florida. And I remember the day before we were going to go snorkeling, I was more excited than any one of my campers. I could not wait to get into the water, see the coral, and I basically went to sleep dreaming of those images that you see on, BBC's Planet Earth or in Finding Nemo. I had all of this vibrance swimming in front of my eyes. But that next day, when we did get into the water, my expectations were not really met. The ocean was still beautiful. It was really crystal clear, gorgeous day. And I was snorkeling around for hours. I saw a fish, I saw a stingray. So that was really amazing. But there was something missing. I realized that the very vibrant, very beautiful, healthy, and lively images that I had in my head were not the reality of nature and the reef in that day. So the color and the movement and the riot of life that I had seen with my own eyes in these nature documentaries was disappearing. I was looking at a graveyard. And I realized in that moment that so many of the really stunning places and incredible animals that I had grown up seeing on TV and dreaming of visiting one day, they were disappearing before my eyes. And a lot of those places are actually just in our own backyard here in the United States. A place that I get to work on for WWF and work in for WWF is the Rio Grande River, which flows through Colorado, which is where I live, New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico. And unfortunately, it's getting drier and drier every year because of overuse and a few other factors. And that puts a lot of my favorite animals at risk, like these sandhill cranes, which you can see, and beavers and trout and so many other fishes, which are often my favorite. And the fact that the river gets drier and drier also makes it tricky for people to have water in their homes. So they have to be really careful about how much they use and make sure they use only what they need. And so as I was learning all this, I'll admit that I did get scared. I was scared for a little while because I didn't know what to do at the time. I didn't know how to save all of these incredible places. I wasn't a super smart researcher and scientist who could find a cure to climate change. I wasn't an engineer who could design a whole new green energy system. I wasn't a builder who could operate a chainsaw and turn a tree into a beaver dam in a restoration zone. And at the time when I was learning this, I didn't even know how to scuba dive or how to work that big camera that you saw at the beginning of this story. I was just a person who liked animals, who liked swimming, who liked hiking, and who liked being in nature. That was just me. So then I decided to start small. I asked my parents if I could use their old digital cameras. This was before smartphones. If I could use their old digital cameras to film bugs crawling around in my backyard or frogs swimming in a nearby park. And then as I got older, I finished school and I got my first job teaching people about the ecology of Florida's coral reef. And I was doing that both in person, like you see here, but also through videos. And so I started to understand that I didn't have to save the planet or these places that I loved completely by myself. And in fact, I knew that nobody can do that. Nobody can save the planet completely by themselves. We have to combine all of our strengths and work together. And my strength is show and tell. So once I knew that, I started to realize and find that there are people all over the world that are using their own knowledge, experience, and their curiosity to save wildlife and wild places. And the more people that joined together, the more solutions that we were able to find. And I decided that I wanted to share as many stories that I could about animals and people and the planet and help to build a future where people live in harmony with nature. So now for the past 10 years, I've worked as a science communicator, sharing wildlife conservation stories on social media and lots of different platforms, and just using simple tools, simple tips, skills, and most importantly, helping other people like you guys start sharing your stories too. So with that, how is it that we're actually going to go about filming in nature when you don't have a big, huge, giant, fancy film crew or a huge camera or all of these different tools to get started? Well, most importantly, you've got to realize that nature is actually all around you. It's not these far, far off places. It's right here at home with you. So it can be things like worms squiggling on the sidewalk after it rains, or bugs crawling in the grass of your backyard. You just have to look super, super close and you'll find your example of nature. And then once you start to see all the different animals and places of nature in your backyard, you can grab an adult and ask them for help to get started. Then the barrier to entry really isn't all that complicated. Once you've found your story, you really just need the bare basics, which is an old smartphone. And most people have that lying around the house. You can see if you know an adult that has an old one that you can use as your very first ever camera. And once you've got that, you're off. You just want to find the story that you want to tell and tell it. Then if you want to start upgrading a little bit, the next most important thing after you've got your camera, like your smartphone, is your audio quality. So this is where you can start investing a little bit more, again, if you've got your adult that's helping you out. But you want to step up your audio quality because what you're saying is just as important as what you're seeing or what you're hearing. So there's lots and lots of quality options for microphones online, but the best thing to start with is just a small one called a lavalier microphone, because it just clips onto a person's shirt, or it can clip onto a leaf on a tree. It can clip onto lots of different places, so you can get lots of really cool sounds and noises, and it's really small and portable, so it's really useful. Then, of course, for me, because I'm working in freshwater and often ocean environments, I really like to have the option of an underwater camera too. And again, things like a GoPro, which is pretty simple to find. You can find secondhand ones that are not too expensive. Those are going to be shooting in your 1080p, which is 1080 pixels, or your 4K. Those are both really, really good standards of crisp, clear quality. And a phone can do that as well. So if you want to start doing underwater stuff, maybe in a neighborhood pool or something like that, a GoPro is another really, really good option. And of course, kind of the basic things like maybe a tripod. And if you're ever going to be outdoors, you always want to make sure you're packing your sunscreen too. And then last but not least, you've got all that gear that you're taking into the field with you. You also want to make sure that you can edit and cut together this stuff once you've uploaded it to your computer. And a lot of professionals are going to use something called the Adobe suite. So they'll use lots of professional editing tools, but there's a really great beginner website called Canva that I bet a lot of people have probably heard of or used before. And you can really start editing your videos there and just cut stuff together pretty simply just on that website. So once you've got those basics down, then you can start to get a little bit more adventurous. And instead of just filming in your backyard, maybe you make a plan to film your next family trip or your field trip. And you make sure that you've planned out to bring all of that gear with you or bring your phone with you. And make sure that you're ready to deal with nature as it comes to you, because half the battle of filming in nature is working with the elements. Sometimes it's going to storm and it's going to start pouring rain on you, and you've got to figure out how to, hide your camera underneath your raincoat. Sometimes it's going to be -5 degrees and you're going to be freezing, and you're going to need to make sure that you've got all of your own body warmth trapped inside so that you're not worrying about yourself. And then you can deal with your camera maybe losing battery quickly because it's colder. That's where that extra battery that I forgot to mention will come in handy as well. And then, of course, especially when you're dealing with wildlife, a lot of times animals don't like to be on camera. So that can be really tricky. You've got to be willing to spend lots and lots of hours outside, or maybe find a way to leave something overnight, like a wildlife camera that we do here a lot with WWF. Or my personal favorite is to find a bit of wildlife, an animal that is really, really slow or doesn't move at all. The very, very first animal that I ever filmed or took pictures of is a sea sponge, and they can't move at all. They're literally stuck in one place on the roots of a tree. So it was a really easy subject for me to be able to start practicing all of my skills with. Then once you have kind of understood what it takes to deal with nature, you can start to get a little bit more adventurous, and maybe you're going to end up in some really crazy places. Like you're seeing this picture here is me in the back of a beaver pond trying to get some footage of what it looks like to be a beaver. Next up is some tips for once you're actually shooting. So when you're filming, a really good rule of thumb is to always make sure that you record for at least 10 seconds. And that gives you enough footage to work with during editing. When we're filming, it can feel like time is, taking hours and hours and hours. But then when you get into your editing room or your editing space, you realize, oh my gosh, I only took 1 second of footage. That wasn't nearly enough for me to be able to actually build an entire story around. So always make sure that you're at least doing 10 seconds, and it's never going to hurt to get a little bit more either. Then if you are acting as the narrator or as the host of your video, as somebody that's talking to your audience, trying to tell them what it is you're seeing or what it is you want them to know, you always want to make sure that you're talking to them like they're your friends or your family. That authentic, relaxed tone really helps to connect people with what you're trying to say. It makes it feel much more like a conversation, and people are much more willing to listen and learn from someone that they feel like is talking to them just as they are, just being themselves. And last but not least, you want to make sure that you're getting not just the one thing that's important to your story. Like for me, I don't just want a video of a trout. I don't just want a video of a beaver. I also want to get what's called B-roll, which is all of the sort of scene setting footage. So that can be, shots of the entire landscape. So you see the whole beaver dam and not just a close-up of a beaver. And a good way to incorporate that is to make sure in your brain that you're getting a checklist of close-up, medium, and wide shots, all in those 10 seconds of B-roll. And that's going to really help to make sure that you've got a very dynamic and exciting video to watch, because you're not just seeing one single thing for a really long time. You're seeing all the different parts of the environment. It also helps to really get the people that are watching a sense that they are in this environment with you, that they're experiencing it with you. So why am I only talking about video? Well, video is my favorite, first of all. So it's just a personal interest, but there's a lot of science behind video and why we use it to communicate as well. And video has been shown to be one of the most powerful storytelling tools that we have. People remember 95% of what they watch compared to 10% of what they read. And video is shared 12 times as much as text and images on social media. And globally, video has a 92% reach. So it's not just effective, it's really expansive. So a lot of people are watching videos daily. Another thing that's cool is that video adds a lot of depth and emotion to your story. And it can be shared from a lot of different platforms, not just YouTube and TikTok and social media, but it can be shared across email. It can be shared in person, somebody sitting next to you watching this video. So it has that really, really expansive reach. And lastly, video gives you a totally different perspective. So it places you in a space that you've never really been before. Like you just saw, you could be relaxing at the bottom of a river with a trout. And that is a totally new experience for 99% of people. Another great thing about video, and particularly short form video, is that it's not just popular, it can be very, very manageable. You don't have to have, like I said, all the crazy fancy tools, and you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours editing a documentary type movie, right? You're just making something short and simple that gets a really cool story across. And that is a really great point of entry for people that have never been able to, or never edited a video before. Starting small with something like a short form video is going to be a really great way to share your stories. Another cool thing about short form video is that it actually allows you to test out all the different parts of making video content. So when you do work with a big professional team, there's like 10 people that all have a really specialized job. And when you're making your own personal social media video, you are all 10 of those people. So it's really awesome because you get to try out all the different roles and see what you like. You can be the host and narrate all your videos. You can get really good at editing raw footage and be the editor. You can be the videographer, the person that's, jumping into the water and getting the shot, or the person climbing the mountain to get the really cool bird's eye view. And you can also be the producer, who is the person that tells everybody what to do. And when it's yourself, you're telling yourself what to do. So there's lots of different roles that you can try out. And that's what makes it so cool to be able to be essentially your own boss when you're making all of these new short form videos. The most important part as you're getting started out is to try everything and decide what you want to keep building your skills in. Decide what you like the best. And if it's everything, then it's everything. But if it's just one of those things, then that's totally cool too. You just figure out what you enjoy doing and you do more of it. And you get better and better the more you do. So my final thoughts is, as you are starting to get onto your journey for creating your first video, keep it simple. You don't need to fly to the Amazon rainforest in order to make a cool video. Nature is all around us, and knowing more about the wildlife and nature that's in your own backyards actually turns it into a whole different world. It makes this amazing story come to life that you didn't even know was there to begin with. Second, trust your own curiosity, because what excites you about animals is probably going to excite other people as well. And last but not least, never lose your wonder. People respond to authentic and real and genuine reactions. And when you are really, truly excited about telling your story, telling the story of an animal, that comes through in your videos and people really connect with it. So I'm going to show you an example of when I really, truly experienced real excitement and how it connected with people. This video is a little bit quiet, so turn up your listening ears.
Hi everyone, this is Madalen with the freshwater team at the World Wildlife Fund. I am currently in New Mexico observing the sandhill crane migration. These sandhill cranes are absolutely amazing animals. They make a migration twice a year. They, in general, are some of the oldest animals on the planet. Their fossil record is 2.5 million years old. They're basically living dinosaurs. They have a courtship dance and they mate for life. These guys are just amazing. I feel so lucky to be able to see them. We started our day super early before sunrise in order to be able to catch these sandhill cranes as they wake up. There's just hundreds and hundreds of them. It's like listening to the world. I just genuinely cannot believe how many birds there are. I'm just gonna let you guys listen for a second. The sandhill cranes are using the Rio Grande as a resource for food, shelter, water. So the sustained health of the entire basin is incredibly important for these guys. Hi everyone, this is Madalen with the freshwater team.
It wants to work. There we are.
Yep. So to wrap up, video is my favorite way to communicate. It helps your message go really far, really fast, and it works for lots of different age groups. You don't need a big fancy team or fancy equipment to start. You just need one or two tools. You need to experiment and you need to grow your skills. And finally, remember that curiosity and wonder are your two greatest tools. Never lose your wonder, because nature doesn't have a voice and it needs us to share its stories. Thanks, guys.
Ah, Madalen, that rocked. Thank you so much. And I mean, for our kids that are listening today, you literally have Madalen as an example. I'm an example of two people that literally just love the natural world and wanted to talk about it in a big way. And we both made a career from this. So it very much is possible. So many people your age and even a little younger start off by just taking those videos, getting out and exploring. And we advertise that all the time here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So I encourage you, when you can, when your teachers allow, get outside, go explore with parents, teachers, friends, whatever, and see what you can find, because no matter where you you are on this planet, there's so many living things near you. It's one of the great joys of being here on Earth. Folks, we're going to dive in with our Kahoot to start. So 4 questions to test your understanding and have some fun. Madalen, you can help us out with a few clues along the way if you'd like. And then we are going to dive in with your questions. So live groups, YouTube groups, we've got a bunch of fantastic folks from all over North America. You can put your thinking caps on, come up with some cool questions, and we will be live with that in just a few minutes. But we're going to dive in with this. If you're new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is Madalen and I's everlasting respect. So let's do this thing and get underway. You can still come in even though we've begun, but here we go. So we featured at the beginning a little bit of ocean stuff with Madalen's mother going scuba diving. The oceans cover what percentage of the planet? How much of Earth is ocean? 15%, 30%, 50%, or 70%? Any hints we can give them? It's pretty big. It's a lot. I would say this. I've heard it said that all the world's lands could fit in the Pacific Ocean. Like if you were to push it together, that might give you a bit of a sense, everybody.
And we often call our planet the blue planet.
For good reason. And most of our audience got this. Way to go, guys. Over 70% of this planet is ocean. Way to go. Lovely kangaroos in our lead. And so we talked a little bit about diving in on that. And Madalen, you can attest to this. Diving is one of the coolest things you can do on planet Earth. It's totally wild. It's like magic to be able to breathe underwater. What age do you have to be to start scuba diving? What do we think? Is it 20, 25, 10, or 15?
I was much older when I got scuba certified, so I was shocked to know this answer, actually.
I was 22, and it's quite amazing. Oh, one of the fewest answers, 10. So most of our audience today, you can start learning to scuba dive. It's called PADI Open Water Diver, and this is true. I grew up in Toronto. We have no oceans. We actually trained in a pool and then a quarry. So we didn't even go into Lake Ontario. So no matter where you are, even if you're in Saskatchewan or Iowa, there's probably some scuba dive lessons for you. So do check that out. All right. Your favorite video, the sandhill cranes, which are such a glorious animal in person. Where were you when you were doing that? It was right at the beginning of the video. Who was paying attention? Brazil, New Mexico, the Yukon, or Portugal?
It was very cold. I know that, which was also shocking.
That is a little shocking. Yeah. Oh, dear. All right. Woo, New Mexico. You guys were paying attention. Way to go. Sandhill cranes do a big migration, but they don't go to Portugal or Brazil, fortunately. There we are. Joyful Alpaca's in the lead. Lovely Kangaroo second. Dominating lead for Joyful Alpaca. Way to go. All right. You should film for at least how long every time you film to make sure it's easy to edit? Is it 25 minutes, 1 second, 10 seconds, or 1 minute? This is a bit of a tricky one. You have to have been really paying attention for this one. But I can attest, most people, I think you'd agree with this. When you film videos, editing is the longest part of the process if you put out your own thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the most fun is getting to film. The hardest part is editing.
A 30-second video that goes out on Instagram or TikTok usually is about an hour of work for people who actually film it themselves. But look, everyone was paying attention. Way to go. 10 seconds. Okay, let's see what that does for our leaderboard. Third, the bronze medal is Gleaming Bear. Second, barely, is Lovely Kangaroo, which first, I think our alpaca friend is our clear winner in this one. Wire to wire almost. Way to go, Joyful Alpaca. If you are any of these folks, let us know who you are in the chat. Congratulations. And we are going to dive in with some questions. So live classes, I'm going to come to you in a second. Miss Murphy's class, Miss Walsh, Mrs. Spee's class. We're coming to you in order that way. But the 4B ballers in Charleston, South Carolina have so many questions, and a great one to begin, which we almost never have, which is, as a science communicator, what channels, apps, or websites do you subscribe to or recommend to classrooms?
Oh, wow. That's great. I mean, honestly, YouTube, it really is a great resource. There's so much free information on YouTube, and it's a free platform to get started on if you want to start posting your own information. So I'd say the best place to start is YouTube. And then I would need a little bit more time to think of all the very professional ones. YouTube's a great way to start.
I had put in the chat, and so for our live audience too, Crash Course, SciShow are both spectacular. The Space Gal, Emily Calandrelli, is just a really amazing science communicator personally. Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants does have a really cool YouTube channel with a lot of cool videos. And Wild Classroom with the WWF also does an amazing job. So if you want to hear from more experts like Madalen, you can head to all of our YouTube channels, and there's a lot to explore and discover there. Great first question. All right, we're heading to California, where we all wish we were, because it's so lovely there. Miss Murphy's class, come on in and take us away. Hey, guys, welcome in. Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hi. You're good. Do you have any questions for Madalen?
Okay, hands down. Alice, you have a question? No. Who has a question? Harlan? Nope.
Maybe.
Do we have any questions? Jordan, where are you? Jordan in the back.
Could you repeat that for us, Miss Murphy?
The main problem with oceans other than climate change.
Holy, and way to go for knowing that climate change is one of the biggest ones. Very good.
That's a great question. Yeah, climate change, definitely a big one. Plastic pollution is another big issue. So, and that's also something that we can kind of directly impact, reducing our plastic use, using reusable water bottles, doing cleanups, even if you're not nearby an ocean, cleaning up trash in your area. That actually helps to protect freshwater ecosystems and ocean ecosystems. So you're protecting two places in nature with just one bit of effort. So plastic pollution is another big problem, but we've got a lot of power to reduce that problem.
We do, and no one likes plastic pollution. It's one thing that there's a few other issues in the world that there's some challenges around, shall we say. Plastic, no one looks at a beach covered in plastic and goes, good. We all agree that that's a terrible thing. We all agree that's something that we can do. I really encourage our classes. Let me pull this up as a banner. Look up Mr. Trash Wheel in Baltimore Harbor. It's one of the great initiatives ever for turning a solution to a problem like this into something that's useful for advocacy and getting kids like you involved. Really, really cool campaign. I love it, and I love that question. Thanks, Miss Murphy's class. All right, Miss Walsh's class, welcome in Newfoundland and our winners of our Kahoot. Way to go as a Newfoundlander. Hello. Do we have any questions for Madalen today?
Yeah, Dom, go ahead.
Do you ever get hurt when you're diving?
Ooh, interesting question.
Great question. So I actually am also a lifeguard, and one of the most important rules of lifeguarding is preventing a dangerous thing from happening as opposed to fixing it once it's already happened. So whenever I'm doing anything out in nature, I'm always looking for anything that could be risky, making sure that I am trying to avoid anything that might get myself hurt. I have never had a bad accident while I've been diving, and I think a big part of that is because I'm prepared. I make sure that I'm doing all of my safety checks. I'm checking my surroundings, and I'm with people that I trust and that are also trained. So I've never had an accident, which is really great, but it is definitely a little bit of a risk. So you got to make sure you go through all the proper training and make sure that you're aware that risk could happen, and you've got to be ready to respond to that.
That was a beautiful answer for that question. We get this question all the time. We have cave explorers, astronauts, what have you. And this is a universal answer, is that all the people that do these risky activities prepare a lot and train and work with people that they trust. And so everything that you mentioned is really, really great for our kids. If you want to go out adventuring, just make sure you have a buddy, make sure people know what you're doing, make sure you know the risks that you might face when you're out there, and plan for them accordingly. And you'll put yourself in a situation where you can have amazing adventures like Madalen and not get hurt, which is what it's all about. So great. Thanks, Miss Walsh's class. All right, Mrs. Spees' class, we didn't get to test our audio, but we're going to try. Hello, folks. Oh, you might still be buffering. Let's see. Try and talk to me. Maybe, kind of, sort of. You can always run to Ms. Murphy's class down the hall if you want, but you can share in the chat. So please share your questions there, and we'll take them from there in just a second. We're going to take one from Caesar in Nicaragua. So Madalen, Caesar was our most involved student all last year. 100 broadcasts, I swear, he attended. And so he wants to know, what's your favorite place to get a good shot?
Favorite place to get a good I just thought of it. Oh man, I love underwater shots. Obviously, I've done both freshwater and ocean ecosystems, and I think most recently my favorite one was underneath a waterfall. We were able to go up into the Rocky Mountains, and we were looking for the Rio Grande cutthroat trout, which is a really, really sort of rare species, and it's really beautiful, and it only likes to live super high elevation in freezing cold water. So we had to get into these really freezing cold pools of water underneath really oxygenated areas with waterfalls in order to try and find some of those cutthroat trout. So that was a really fun experience because it was just such a tricky place to try and get the shot.
Yep. Sounds awesome. And so cool. And by the way, sorry, cutthroat trout. It's so weird because I'd never heard of cutthroat trout until I started this program. And we do programs with Parks Canada on them all the time. So they just keep coming back to us. And I appreciate that very, very much. Oh, Miss Murphy's class, you have consolidated already. So Mrs. Spees' class is there. We'll head to you guys for another live question. Hey.
Wait. Okay. Alice. Nice and loud.
How old were you when you started scuba diving?
Yeah.
Great question. So I learned to swim before I learned to walk. So I was always swimming. I loved being in the water, but I did not learn how to scuba dive until after I finished college. I was 22 years old, and it was because I really wanted, like, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted my career to be, but I knew I wanted to be able to get into the water and explore. And so scuba diving was just a next skill and a next step for me to do. But you guys can start sooner than I did. So
I don't know. 22 is a pretty good age to start scuba diving. We're cool on that. But yes, honestly, like if I had known that you could do it at 10, I would have been first one in the pool. It's such a special skill to have. And it opens up 70% of the world to you in a way that you simply don't have access to if you don't have that skill. It's so easy. It's so much fun. Can't recommend enough. Thanks, guys. All right, Miss Walsh's class, we can come back to you for another live one. We've got some YouTube friends. We're just whipping through these questions. And if you do have extra, there's like 100 of you put up your hand there. Email them to me. We'll pass them along to Madalen after the fact. But we'll start with YouTube. A nice one from our 4B ballers in Charleston. Other than your mother, who are your biggest influences?
Oh, that is a really good one. My mom really is a huge one. We talk about science and we talk about animals and nature all the time. We geek out a lot together. I also really love Jane Goodall. I remember watching a lot of stories about Jane Goodall being able to basically live with apes for a while. I thought that was the coolest experience ever. Jacques Cousteau, who did a bunch of ocean exploration. And actually, we mentioned them a little earlier, the Green brothers from YouTube. I grew up in sort of the age of YouTube when it was first starting, and Hank Green is really big into the science world. So I really liked to watch their videos as well, just talking about, cool different things.
They're pretty great. We did have Jane Goodall on to help wrap up our last school year. She was amazing to have live on camera.
That's
so
incredible.
Very, very fun. All right. Danny, joining for the first time ever on YouTube, wants to know, is there a place that you've been that you were scared when you were there?
Oh, that's a good question too. I always have a little bit of fear in the back of my mind. And I think that's important because you don't want to be totally 100% like, oh, this will be easy. There's nothing's going to go wrong. Like, you need to know that there could be something that goes wrong, because that helps you to be aware of your surroundings. But I think the scariest places was when I was working in the Florida Keys. We would go snorkeling in the mangroves all the time, and the mangroves make it shady. So they make it very dark, and their roots go into the water and they look kind of creepy, like really just scary, like Halloween trees. And I was just always nervous that like a crocodile or something was going to be like right there in front of my face. And that never happened. There were some, small nursery sharks and things like that, but I was never really scared of the sharks because I knew they were more scared of me than I was of them.
What a good lesson in that. And by the way, scary Halloween trees is how we should byline every mangrove program we do from now on. I like that very much. They're very cool. If you've never seen mangroves, kids, look them up. They rock. Miss Walsh's class, Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, come on back in. Hey.
Oh. Emily Pittman, go ahead.
What was the coolest creature you've ever seen?
The coolest creature you've ever seen. No pressure at all.
I was going to say that's the hardest question to answer. I think I'm going to say all the invertebrates that live in the ocean and just invertebrates in general. So like I love lettuce sea slugs and I love horseshoe crabs and I love sea stars, but I also really love bigger things like eagle rays and Goliath groupers and jaguars that live in some of our freshwater ecosystems. So that's a totally impossible question. I can't pick one.
I love that in your first two answers, though, you said sea slugs, which rock. Everyone should look up sea slugs. They're nothing like land slugs. They're one of the coolest groups of animals in the world. And horseshoe crabs.
Mm-hmm.
This is an aside. Have you been to the migration to see like the million of them on the beach?
No, I've not, but I have seen my fair share just swimming around in the Keys.
That's so fun. For our American friends, if you ever get the chance to go to the East Coast, particularly the Northeast Coast, in a certain time of the year, you can have a million horseshoe crabs up on the beach, and it's absolutely mind-blowing to see that in person. Very, very cool. All right, we're going to take one more question. I know we could go all day, but Ms. Murphy's class, come on back in and take us away. Hey.
Jasper, you have a question?
Yeah. How much time do you travel around the world?
Ooh, how much time do you travel, Madalen, for your job?
Also, you guys have such good questions. So it depends on kind of the time of year, and it depends on like the time span in my career. So when I was just starting out, I was only in the Florida Keys. The whole time I never really traveled anywhere besides just the reefs of the Florida Keys, which it's really big. It's like 300 miles long. So we were going all up and down that area. Now with the World Wildlife Fund, I basically, any chance that I can get, I try and get on a trip to go to different places. But I think the coolest thing about working with the World Wildlife Fund is that I've realized how many spots in the United States are amazing and beautiful and mind-blowing to get to film in. So I've gotten to go to places like you saw in the video, New Mexico and the Rocky Mountains here in Colorado, and down south in Texas. And I had never been to those states, and I didn't realize how much amazing natural wild life and wild places were here, literally just in my backyard. So for timing, it's as much as I can. For distance, it's anywhere, but I didn't realize how much the United States has to offer. There's so much cool stuff here in our own backyards.
It's such a beautiful message. I remember as a boy in Canada, I was like, oh, nature's in Australia, it's in East Africa, it's in Brazil. And like, we have two of the most diverse ecosystem rich countries in the planet. You can find things that are in the, coldest Arctic tundra down to like deserts in New Mexico and Arizona. And it's truly wild to see that diversity. So kids, wherever you're joining from today, all 20 states, all 4 provinces and beyond, go out, explore, see what you can find. Because things that might be totally normal to you, to the rest of the world, are these wild and outlandish and really, really cool animals. And if you share their stories, you can help inspire and excite a lot of kids just like you. Madalen, this has been so much fun. Time flies when you're having fun, so we are nearing the end of the broadcast. I want to note, if anyone does have extra questions, again, please email them to me. Check out our full WWF series. If you haven't checked out worldwildlife.org, there's so much to discover broadly on their freshwater ecosystems. We talked about the Rio Grande and Rio Bravo, so keep exploring there and share this with your friends and family. It'll be on YouTube momentarily, so lots more to explore there. Madalen, before we bring in our kids to say a big thank you and farewell, is there any final message you want to leave them with before we say goodbye?
Last thing is just thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that all of you go out and find a way to share a story about some cool piece of nature in your home. And if you want to learn anything more about the work that WWF does, we've got so much information on our website, worldwildlife.org. And if you want to learn about my team, the freshwater team, we've got that link in the chat as well. But thank you guys so much. And I really hope that everybody is able to share their stories and give a voice to nature.
No better message than that. Madalen, it's been so fun having you on. What we do to wrap up every broadcast, I'm going to bring in our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. If you're on YouTube and you want to scream and yell when we end too, to annoy the principal, you have our permission, so please do. But we're going to bring in Miss Murphy, Miss Spees, Mrs. Walsh's class. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.